Welcome to the She Wins podcast. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin, and today I'm interviewing Lauren Vizza Rich. Lauren was a Miss USA state title holder in Louisiana and also Miss America state title holder in Louisiana. She has a tremendous amount of experience, not only in pageantry, but she also was a news reporter and anchor. And I just can't wait to pick her brain. We talk a lot about just some of the struggles that she went through and how she reached success, but then also some advice for you. So join us. Hey, Lauren. Okay, long time no see. It's so nice to see you.
I know it's been years. I was trying to think about how long since the last time we talked and we were working together, and it's been a while.
It's been since Miss Louisiana USA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember.
2018.
Oh my goodness. Pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah.
All right. So do me a favor. Just kind of do a simple intro of you. Tell us a little bit about you and then we'll roll.
Okay. So my name, Lauren Vizza Rich, and in the pageant world, I had the honor of being Miss Louisiana in the Miss America system 2012 and then Miss Louisiana USA 2018. Throughout sort of a professional career, I was a news anchor and really leaned into the communications world. And now I'm in a whole new type of role that I never imagined, doing operations and day-to-day sort of supporting of different teams. And I live in the Pacific Northwest in the beautiful state of Washington with my husband, Matt, and my dog, Sammy.
Oh, what kind of dog?
She is a little pitty mix, and we're in my home office today, and this blue that you can see to the side of me, maybe that's her couch. And it's her couch. And so if she's sitting on the couch, she's comfortable. So you might see a random little white ear pop up or something. That's her, just letting everyone know that she's a very supportive teammate to me in my working days.
I love it. A fun fact, my daughter brought home two different puppies at different times over the past year.
Are they your puppies now?
Yes, one of them adopted me. The other one adopted my husband. And so, yeah, we now have three dogs that are all her fault.
Oh my gosh. Wait,
yeah.
That's kind of fun though. That's how Sammy we wanted to adopt a dog together. And then the dog that now lives with my mom, we kind of joke that she's a therapy dog for my mother with me leaving and moving so far away. But Lacey is obsessed with my mother. And so I brought Lacey home as this is going to be my dog. But she immediately was no, she belongs to my mom and they're inseparable and it's so sweet.
And that's fair. Totally.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. So one of the things that I always want to know is what is a defining moment in your life? We'll kind of start there.
If I had to pick the biggest thing that truly changed the trajectory of my life in such a fundamental way, in high school, I played soccer and the whole thing that I could think about for what was next in my life. The reason I picked this college I went to, every single thing was about playing at that next level and playing in college at D1. And I graduated high school in 2009. So this was really before, it's not in today's world where you had tons of playing options with the National Women's League was really vibrant. It didn't really exist. You played in college and then that's it. That was the end of it. But that's all I wanted to do. I purely picked Louisiana Tech because it was a Division I school, which was a sort of criteria for me. And then it was an hour away from my house, which was about as far as my mom was willing to let me go. It was the first one to go to school. And then I was going to get to walk onto the team. I had two major knee surgeries, junior and senior year of college, that totally impacted kind of the length that I was going to get to play. And I set this up only to understand how much of my life was riding on this. And then over the summer, weeks before I was supposed to go to college, potentially walk onto this team, I re-injured my knee and couldn't run, couldn't move. Everything I'd planned for myself, done weeks before we're moving into tech. And I had to rethink everything about my life, rethink every single thing about what I wanted to do because I had no plans at tech. I had an idea of what I wanted to major in, but that was the only reason I picked the school was because of the soccer team. So I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it was going to be for. And I remember telling my mom at the time, okay, I'm going to go to tech. We're going to give it a try. If I don't like it, I'll transfer to somewhere bigger, like LSU, or I'll transfer somewhere else. But I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to do with my life. I don't know what classes I want to take. I don't want to major. And so I had kind of a couple weeks to really, when everything you're thinking you're going to do just like crumbles in front of you, you kind of have to stop and think like, well, what now? Like, what is my path? And I was also at the time no one believes me, but very shy, like
Mhm.
painfully shy, afraid to say my name in a classroom. I would like get so sweaty and hot that I would like black out whenever I just had to introduce myself and like I couldn't even think about it. And so I didn't want to be like that. And I felt like college was a time for me to reinvent myself. And I had nobody knew who I was. I had no like prior reputation. I had nothing. I was like getting a clean slate to build whoever Lauren Vizza was going to be. And so I gave myself, I didn't tell anybody this, but like myself, my challenge was I'm going to say yes to every single thing that I'm offered for the rest of the year. Yes to everything within reason, of course. And it led me to, I joined a sorority and I read about, so I picked this sorority based on like, I looked at the girls and I was like, this is who I want to be in 4 years. And so I picked Sigma Kappa sorority because I really thought those girls, I was like this. And there was one in particular who now is my sister-in-law, which is really funny. But to me, I was like, she's the ideal. Like, I want to be like Mallory in 4 years. Then I will know I have succeeded. And I had no idea anything about a sorority. No one in my family went to college or did any of this. So like I was in uncharted territory. So I like researched everything about what is this sorority looking for and like kind of crafted these answers around that and just baked it that I was super confident and really excited. I knew all these things. And then that year I also discovered, pageants like we had the Miss Louisiana Tech pageant as a preliminary for Miss America. I didn't know the difference between Miss America and Miss USA. I just kind of thought they were the same, but I was always
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
But I thought they were the same. And my friend in French class asked me to do it with her. She was like, let's do the Miss Tech pageant together. It'd be really fun. I'm like, no, I'm not doing a pageant. And then I remembered my Say Yes to Everything challenge. And so I told my mom, I'm going to do a pageant. And she had no idea what that meant. It was an absolute, it's hysterical to look back at the photos. I'll just say that. It's really funny to look back at that. But it was, and then obviously after that experience, I did place, but I had a fun, it was fun, but it was totally different. I had great feedback from some of the judges that ended up becoming lifelong friends, gave the feedback, some really critical feedback to take into the future. And then I didn't like the idea that I couldn't beat something. And then it became this sort of challenge of like, I'm not going to let a pageant be the thing that gets me. Like, I could do this. And then I did it again and placed top 5 at Miss Louisiana that year. So it all kind of, and then that obviously opened the whole new world of possibilities. But it all started with having to get a couple of weeks together of what am I going to do with my life now that I am going to college with no plan and no clear picture for my future.
So I think it's cool because it's like, had you not had those injuries,
Mm-hmm.
so I think you said junior, senior year of high school, you
Yeah.
had these serious knee injuries. So if you hadn't had that, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have actually discovered what potential you had off the field.
Not at all. I would not have been, there's so much about my life now that wouldn't exist if I hadn't had those. And about myself as a person, forget like things I've accomplished or jobs I've had or tangible kind of things like that. But me as a person wouldn't have developed near as much, I think, if I had just kept within that comfort zone box. I think there would have been opportunities like if I got into maybe coaching or if I pursued something further in school, because again, there was that sort of like gap of, it was like there was like a long term thing. I think I would have gotten there maybe not really to where I am today, but I might have developed in some ways, but not near as much. I just think about that. I think about that all the time. I just, my life now versus what it
Could
could
have
have
been.
been or what I, even
Mm-hmm.
in my best imagination self in 2009, what she imagined, it wasn't even a fraction of this.
That's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to do is talk about winning and how we define it. So I call this She Wins, right? Solutions and stories for women. But I think we all define it a little different. So I'm
Hmm.
curious, how would you define winning if you could?
I winning. I mean, obviously, like there's the pageant context, right? But I think beyond that in life, like what are you're winning? I think anything that moves your life positively in a direction. If there is movement at all, you learn something new about yourself. You were inspired about to learn about something else. You're inspired to try something. You've been, it's taken you in a next step in a career. You've developed something else, a skill, like met somebody, made connections, anything like that. I consider that a win. And so, and it's helped because often a win is something small. It might be minute, but you're like, oh, this is still good. Like we're still moving in the direction that we should be. But
So,
I think it's awesome to think like, oh, it'd be big and match your goal and there's like confetti all the time. But
yeah,
I don't know.
no.
I think even if you're doing something small for yourself in some way or fashion, that's a win.
I think it's important to recognize those small victories every day. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of times people don't. And
Yeah.
they're winning all day long. And then they're like, oh, I'm such a loser. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you were winning all day. You just didn't
Well,
recognize
especially
it.
yeah, sorry, yeah. Like especially when you're comparing yourself, if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, like I think the benefit of something like social media is that you're kind of getting to me, it's like getting new ideas, you're like able to stay connected to people, you're learning about things that you wouldn't really maybe have thought of before. But it can also be a huge comparison when you stop and say, okay, well, here's this person at this age, at this life place. Why am I not exactly there? And like, oh, they just had this big win this year, and I don't think any of my wins have been that big. So it can be that very it can skew your definition of winning if you're assuming it all has to be something also big and massive and life changing. Like those kind of things don't happen all the time, but there's enough small, and I say even like small because the little things add up, but there's
Mm-hmm.
enough of those that can really count towards, I don't know, positivity and life movement and like you're like, yeah, look at me go.
Well, and I don't think you ever get those big wins without the small moments.
That's such a good point.
And so
Yeah.
then let's just not wish for the big win. Let's be
Right.
excited about the small moments that are leading there anyway. Okay.
That's so true. Like the big one, it's only happening because you've been doing all of these little things and it helps you appreciate like a big, final success like that.
So tell me a little bit more about your. Okay, we've talked about winning, but is there a time when you've lost that you feel like turned into an important moment that changed you in any way?
It's sort of I find myself at these crossroads of not knowing sort of what to do, and where I should know or where I think I should, or my plan that I had perfectly outlined. I'm a planner. I have my backup plans to backup plans. Like that is how I thrive and survive. But I find my best like opportunities are when all of that is gone and sort of taken away from me. I so when I won Miss Louisiana America, it was in 2012, and I with that system you have to take the year off that you're serving from whatever you're doing, so you're not working and you're not in school, and it would have been my senior year of college. So I took that off, came back, completed my senior year of college, and at the time I decided I was going to go to law school, not because I wanted to practice law, but because I thought like, oh, it'd be really great on my resume, and then I can get into like foreign service, like just do other things, maybe in politics, something like that. But and so I sort of did things leading up to that. But during the year of Miss Louisiana, I'd done a lot of communications type things like interviews and stuff. And people would ask me at news stations, like, you have such a great voice and demeanor for TV. Have you ever thought about it? And I was like, no, not at all. I'm going to be a Secretary of State. I'm going to law school. I'm way too cool for comms. And so I was like dead set. Like I knew that's what I was doing. I was taking the LSAT. I was like lining up internships in DC, everything. And I graduated in May, and every leading up to that, in like the last 2 months, every single plan that I had made fell apart in such a dramatic and complete fashion that it was so clear to me that the plan I had planned was not at all what I should be doing with my life. Like it was so, and some of it I can't say, but like some of it was so loud and so clear. Like the internship fell through because the senator, or he was a congressman, ended up having a crazy scandal. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go spend all of my money on an unpaid internship for someone like that and why would I do that? Was going to get into the schools that I had really wanted to. The finances weren't going to line up, just like big things, like just crumbling. And you're like, okay, I graduated in May. I had no job lined up. I had no plan for what I was doing next. And I moved home to Shreveport, which is the exact thing that I said I would never do because I said that would be the worst. And that moment of the time of sort of a stillness of let's figure out what do we want to do? Let's get back to the basics of who we are. What crazy opportunities are there? And I kind of reverted back to where I was probably 5 years ago in this moment of like, let's take all these opportunities and explore the things that we thought we weren't going to explore. And I did commercials, long form type of commercials at the and I, again, not at all where Miss I'm going to be Secretary of State thought she was going to be, was like doing infomercials basically for our local station. But it was the thing that opened the door to a whole career, 4 years in news and totally changed, again, the trajectory of my life that was very clearly going one way where, and it was going to be a lot about other people and like not really investing in developing my skills so much, but it was going to be a lot of I'm going to be an intern here because of the status of it. But what am I developing? Maybe some contacts, but I'm not really developing a lot of my type of skills. So it was a moment of really reframing what I wanted to do with my life and myself. And it felt weird because nobody wants to graduate college and not have a plan. That's all everybody wants to know. And I would just make things up for a few months. But not have any clear concept of what it was going to be. And then a year later, my whole life was drastically different.
So how did you go from the America system to USA? How, why, what happened there?
So I actually called Paula Miles, who's like the RPM director for Louisiana, while I was Miss Louisiana America. And it was sort of the last few months of that. I just felt, I was 23 when I won in the America system, and I felt like I had more to learn about myself and more to do. And I thought the fun of, talent was always the hardest for me anyway, with all my injuries and everything. It was always a challenge for me to be dancing on that stage. The number of quarters and shots that I had to get to just make it through. And USA didn't have that. And I thought USA would be a really fun way to just like continue to develop my interview skills, the fashion side, beauty, hair, makeup, like the stage presence. And I didn't know how to tangibly say it, but I felt like I had more to learn and give in that space. And the more I learned about the pageant systems and the difference of it, I realized that as a kid, it was Miss USA that I grew up really watching. I knew about Miss America and I'd seen some key moments, but Miss USA had been held in my hometown. So I actually went the 2 years that it was there. I knew what Miss USA was. And I thought, how fun just to be involved in that system. And I really thought I had nothing to lose. Like I've already won a title. I've gotten school, a lot of school paid for. I've won scholarship money. This is just for fun and for me. And the first year was wild and fun, and I had no idea what to expect, but they do such a great job. And it sounds like a commercial for them, but they do such a great job that it's so fun that you meet girls that go back every year for years, and you're like, as a first year, you're like, there's no way. Like, why are you here 5 times in a row? And then you're the one that's here 5 times in a row, and you're like, oh, this is why we keep coming back to this.
It's like, it's the thing I do in the summer. It's the thing that I do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. This is what do you mean? Like, you have other plans? But I feel like I should say too, like, today, there's a lot of girls that are doing both that kind of make that switch. It was when I did it, not like I'm a trailblazer, but it was a big shocker kind of a thing to the system. For some people that I would make that shift. It doesn't always work that way. And I think, which is just more of, I don't understand this sort of, you have to pick one thing forever. Like I'm like anything at any moment, whatever works for you, whatever place you are in your life, the more the merrier. And I think over time, in general, our society is warmed up to just letting people, adventure and explore and try different things and not be so like, here's your box that you have to fit in. And now the systems do work well together. Some girls that just aren't cut out for America. It's just not where that passion lies, or they're just not getting that success and they switch and then they have more success, or vice versa. So I think it's a lot more fun. Why not?
I think it can be hard for people to, if they're diehard, they're really, really dedicated to one system, to see someone that they love who's held that title go to the other system and compete and continue to compete and compete and compete. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think there is a place for every pageant system out there. And there are plenty of opportunities for girls to be able to thrive. And not everybody can do both or be successful in both. And the fact that you were able to, even if it took you 5 times, is really, it's really inspiring to those who want to continue. And I love what you said is that at 23, I knew there was more that I could learn about myself. And pageantry is a journey of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't end, it doesn't have to end when you give up your title. You can continue to learn. And so I think I applaud you. I think why not? Hold both. I mean,
Why not?
why not?
I mean, that's a sort of a life philosophy of mine anyway, of like, why not? You know, somebody has to do it. And, or, you know, in some cases, like, but why not? Like, why can't I do it? Why shouldn't we, you know, I try this? And I'm lucky that the people that I listened to the most were very supportive of me, and that I felt in all of these sort of things. A lot of the things that I tried were brand new to us as a family, especially. And so my mom would just go along for the ride and learn along the way. And like, she's always like, I'm not a pageant mom at all. And I tell her, well, you can't really say that now. You have to study. You might not feel like one, but at this point, I'm sorry to say, but you're a pageant mom now. Like, you kind of have to be.
Well, and I don't even think that there's a box that a pageant mom has to fit in either.
No.
You know?
No.
I mean, if you're driving your
a
daughter,
pageant mom, because she would ride. We'd go through appearances and drive, and she'd be right there with me, helping me like figure out scheduling maneuvers. I'm like, I don't need you to figure out a spray tan, but like, let's, you know, all the other things that, you know, she was invaluable for. And it's just like, there's not a pageant girl, there's not a pageant type. Like there is whatever it is that you're bringing to that. But
when it's not who you are, it's what you do. And I think a lot of people get that mixed up. It's that what I do is not who I am. It's just the thing that I do.
Exactly. And so many people get caught up in it as the fundamentals of who they are as a person. And it's like, it is not at all you. This is something that's a hobby that you should have way more to your life than just, if you, especially in pageants, there's got to be more to life than that.
Well, for sure. You've got to have something to look forward to outside of it, because you can't control results. Speaking of results. So you went to nationals a couple times. Tell me about that experience.
Goodness. So you know, to understand sort of the level of emotional impact that a nationals result had on me, let's talk about like my state results to just know like what I was used to, if you will. In the Miss America system, I was in the top 5 twice before I won. So I won on my 3rd try, but it was top 5. Same pretty much in the USA system. I competed 5 times. It was, I think, like top 5, except one year I was top 10, and then I won. So I was used to being successful, and I knew that I was like, I could do this job at whatever this national title is, but you don't realize that. And I think it's important, without spoiling the magic, there's a huge difference between your state title and then the way a national pageant is run and what goes into it and all the things that you're not even privy to, the things that you know, there's just a lot to it. And I didn't place both times at the national level. And the America one was devastating because you're 23 years old. Like, that was just hard to fathom. And in some aspects, like being told things like by people of like, you're going to be a favorite and you should do this and like you should be really great and you're interviewing this and that, and having to come to terms with there's a period of second guessing everything you did to get there, and then how do you move on and recover. And it, you know, I'm sure there's other girls that can really agree with me on this, like the vivid sort of dreams that you will have about it and nightmares where you're like, you're getting your second chance and, oh, you place this time, and then you wake up and it's not real at all. Like that. And then like, you have to just really sit with what is it that I'm trying to process through this. And then you kind of bring your separation, and then time is of course the best healer for anything like this, and it brings such perspective. And then you realize, okay, yeah, that had nothing to do with me. Like I did everything I had to do. I have no regrets. Little choices that you're like, well, if I had done this, if I had done, no, and nothing to do with that. The one that I think had even a bigger sort of impact that I am always, you know, fine with now. But I mean, Miss USA, the year I competed, was held in my hometown of Shreveport-Bossier. I was on the news. I was a main morning anchor and involved in a lot of activity. So it's a smallish town, so small enough that you can be a visible entity. People can know who you are. And I knew a lot of people I had I don't say convinced, but like really worked with like that I knew were supporting the pageant in their business capacity because of me. And that had like donated or done things because they were wanting to support me. And like I put a lot into this. And then I didn't make the top 15, top 16. They ended up with an extra one, I think. That was awful. It was like standing on that stage was one of the most I don't know how I didn't like crumble into a million pieces and just start crying and right. I don't mean, and I'm not a crier. Like I don't get emotional very often, and so I just wanted to. I wanted the stage to just envelop me and never come back out again. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, sometimes I've never really talked about a lot of people before, but like you go back on stage and we had to do a swimsuit number. And it was sort of like all of a sudden the magic and energy that I'd always felt in a swimsuit. All of a sudden I just felt like I was so exposed. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what am I doing here? This is not like, what am I doing? The mayor that I'm friends with is right there in the front row. And we made eye contact and I felt so weird. Oh, it was the strangest feeling of my life. Like all of a sudden I was like, what am I doing? Like, why did I even do this at all? This was the biggest mistake. I started second guessing it was awful. It was awful. And it took me a while because then I have to go to work on Monday. Mm-hmm. Like I have to talk about this to people forever. And how many times can you, and as gracious and wonderful as they were like, I don't understand what happened. Like, yeah, me neither. Like, yeah. Obviously, you're right. Yeah, thanks like, for your support. Like, it was one of those experiences that you just can't explain. And I will never know what happened and why. Right. In that setting, that's what happened. But I don't regret any of it. And I would, knowing now that I'm like years out from it, a few years out, would I do exactly it all over again? Yes. Would I change anything? No. Except I'd get more confidence probably in certain aspects, but I would do the exact same thing. Like I did everything anyway. So It's one of those that you're just like, how do you?
It feels like a breakup.
Oh, it was, yes. And then your ex is everywhere.
It was like you were dumped on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
But fortunately, you were dumped along with 35 other girls. So, I mean.
No, thank goodness. And to this day, a few of my still some of those girls are like my very best, closest friends, which makes that's the whole reason to do a pageant is the friendship. Like mm-hmm. If you pick for one reason, that's it. But, no, it was, yeah. Cause it's like, think of it's like everybody. So it's your hometown, right? Okay. So it's like people are going to watch that have just like known you, people that you might have like not gotten along with, or like the people and you were like, this is going to be such a like, look at me, I'm winning moment. And then it's just like, oh my God, which it still is like, mm-hmm. I still made it there. Like life is still incredible. All the things around it, like the perspective, yeah, but in the moment sure. You're like, I want to die. Like right here, I just want the stage. Please envelop me.
But it's something that a lot of people can relate to though. Because there's a lot of public rejection in life. Mm. And I think that's the difference in pageantry is it's so subjective. Mm-hmm. And it's these judges are determining whether or not I move forward or don't. I've done everything I possibly can. I feel confident about everything I brought to the table. There's nothing I would change, nothing I would do different. And they still get the opportunity to decide your fate.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, okay, there's only so much you can do. And the way that I look at it is if you're happy with what you put out there, that's all you can do. See, it's still a win.
It is. And it was still now, mm-hmm. How many years are we out? 5 years out from the pageant. Now I only think of the fun. I don't even remember. There was so much that happened during that sort of time period and I don't even remember any of the negative stuff. You really that's the fun of this is that you think that stuff is going to stick with you and it's not. Like I think of the cupcake shop that printed my face on cupcakes that day. And one of my friends wore this shirt that she still wears when she runs a 5K or something with a pageant photo of my face on it, cheering it. And so she'll tag me anytime she wears it. That's what I remember. Right. That's the fun that like I got to show, my hometown that I, am proud of that I'm from, but that to 50 girls from across the country, got to sort of experience the best that we had to offer in that moment, and the sponsors that stepped up to just help me. That's what you remember, and all the friendships and the relationships that were built. I mean, like you and I getting to work together,
Mhm.
and like that's it. You don't remember any of the negative. You just don't. Like it's not. And I think it's also a choice. Some people, when you talk to people and they're reminiscing, that's all they're holding on to. But my whole like life is trying to focus on whatever is in the negative, whatever positive is happening. I need that, and I need to make that the thing that I focus on and remember. And that when we're reminiscing or we're talking about it, we're bringing that positivity to mind. Um, but without trying to make it sound like it was all sparkles and rainbows and everyone's a unicorn.
I
It
know.
was, but
It's
it was awesome
it's so much
overall.
work. It's so much work, but it's so worth it. No matter
Yeah.
where you place or how well you do at the local,
Mm-hmm.
state, national level, it is worth the effort you put in. One last question for you. So, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given that has actually made a positive or a really big impact in your life?
So right, I'm going to bring this back to my mom, and I'm going to kind of credit her with this because at a young age, I came up with always like very big dreams and big ideas. And instead of telling me to rein it in or let's be more realistic, she would always say, well, why not? Great. And how do we do that? Okay, how can we make this happen for you? And this idea of why not? And so that sort of question, anytime I'm thinking about something or somebody brings me something and they're like, should I do that? Why not? And if you
Mm.
can't come up with like a very serious, realistic reason why you shouldn't or could not do something, why not do it? Why not take that leap of faith? And I think my life has been sort of that example of being ready for those opportunities and opening up doors and then asking myself, like taking very big risks and big adventures and why not? Why not try that? And the worst thing that can happen is really not that bad and you will survive and make it through. As I sit here today, having made it through the thing that I thought was the things that I thought were going to get me.
I love the whole concept of why not. I feel like that's how
Mhm.
I live my life too. Why not start a podcast?
Why not?
Why not call
Why
Lauren
not?
and say, hey, I want to interview? Why not do all of things? And why
Yeah.
not spend more time talking to you for our Patreon members? So if you are not yet a Patreon member, please join the Patreon membership. I'm going to pick Lauren's brain for women. I'm also going to pick her brain specifically for pageantry. So if you're a pageant person, join the membership so that you can learn from her because she's fabulous. Thank you, Lauren, for your time. I'm so grateful to have you on this episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks. This was so much fun.
Awesome.